All right. Let's give it a second. We will get the gang in. All right. Let's see.
Hello.
We've got Bryan with us. Hang on. Let me get Tyler in.
Oh my God.
4. There you go. Double your pleasure, quadruple your fun tonight, right?
Hey, buddies.
Everybody's in. Cool. We will give it just a second or two and see who all shows up. Let me throw up. All right, so now I can see what's going on in the comments. So just for physical location stuff, so I'm in Atlanta.
Tampa Bay.
Bryan, you're in Florida.
Yep.
You're on the west coast of Canada, and Tyler's in Denver. So we got pretty much the whole continental North America covered.
Yeah.
For the most part. We need to find a crafter in Mexico City that can join us, and then we'll get the whole thing.
We got one. MVK is in I don't know what city he's in. He's somewhere south of Texas, so potentially Mexico City. I'm not sure.
There you go. Wouldn't that be something? So cool. So this is just our regular Thursday night
Hanging out.
Whatever. Yeah, Tyler, I'll turn it over to you a little bit, and because I think you were the person that asked Bryan to join us. We're definitely happy to have you, and I think all of us kind of know each other anyway. But I'll let y'all do your thing.
Yeah, I'll go. I guess I know we do like kind of like a little, for some of the people who tune in frequently, regular, if you will. You've probably heard the spiel before. I'm Tyler. I'm in Denver. Moved from New Jersey about 2 years ago now, and that's the gist of it. Obviously, I love popping on these things, and we've I guess covered a multitude, of topics, at this point. So there's really no rhyme or reason to what we're doing outside of just getting together on Thursday nights when we all have some free time. So I don't have any specific, agenda or anything like that. But I thought it'd be great to bring on Bryan, who not only do I have a ton of respect for, have become kind of close with, even though we've never physically met, which is funny. But we're definitely going to try and make that happen here soon. For anyone who's not, or who's, maybe new to this thing or not a leather crafter or not in the world, I guess, that we all live in, I thought it would just be great to have Bryan pop on here, because not only is he a wealth of knowledge, he has way more relationships than I could ever imagine on this weird little platform that we live on. So he's done a great, I think we can all agree that, and just to pump your tires here a little bit, Bryan, I think you've done a really good job of obviously kind of bringing together, not only us three people here on this call, but also many other, folks that would have no business probably meeting each other or talking to each other or messaging back and forth or sharing knowledge with each other across the country, across the world. You've had agendas that you put in place that have helped out multitudes of different people. So I think it's only fitting that as we kind of ramp up this thing that started out as just two bozos, me and Chuck, kind of chatting, over a beer, to bring in people like Melissa and people like yourself. So I'll turn it over to you. Again, like there's no, we'll get into the nitty gritty here and we'll just kind of, rant and ramble here for a little bit. But that's my introduction if I had to give an introduction to Bryan. So
Okay.
Floor is yours, buddy.
I appreciate it. That was quite the introduction. I've done a lot of these calls with a lot of different people over the years, and I've never done a foursome. So
Let me tell you, buddy.
super excited that you guys are my first. I'm excited.
Tyler comes
I'm
here
excited.
just for this.
I'm glad. I dressed down, so I wanted to be real comfortable for this. So
Careful what you wish for.
I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate the friendship that we've grown over the years that we kind of did this. When I started leather in 2017, late 2017, early 2018, somewhere around there, Tyler and I kind of, I guess, linked up at some point pretty early on. And yeah, I guess we kind of just learned together, honestly. I think we really had no idea what was going on. I think we just had kind of a similar, not approach, but a similar intention, I guess, for our businesses or goals. And so kind of kicked it off. And then obviously from there, I just was like a serial networker and tried to meet as many people as I could and tried to then force those people to know the other people so that everybody could just kind of kick it together. And so I'm sure a lot of people on this call probably were part of the Leathercraft Collective. And so there's hopefully by the end of the call, a lot of you guys on here. Yeah, I don't have much of an intro. I like leather. I like making leather stuff. I like making leather wallets. I just enjoy creativity, art, in any sort of form. And yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to know the three of you guys. And yeah, I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I will say, just to kind of add that, between the four of us, we've raised a lot of money doing charity stuff that we've all either happened to participate in at the same time, or Bryan, stuff that you've arranged. So on top of just getting together and kind of sharing knowledge and experience and all that other stuff with each other, we've done a metric ass load of good just to kind of use what we've learned here and apply it to things out in the world, right? How many Ugly Wallet Party was, what, four or 5 years in running? Something like that?
And I think, honestly, although the LCC kind of, shut down and the UWP is not necessarily, slated to happen, I know a lot of people still plan on doing, UWP, Ugly Wallet Party entries, fundraisers this year too. So hopefully it's something that keeps going, even though it's not necessarily as, sponsored or put together.
I mean, I think it's awesome that, you kind of set the perpetual wheel in motion of using what we can do to raise money for other people and whatever. I think one of the cooler parts about UWP was like each person could pick their own thing, like whatever's important to you. But we're all doing it in the same way that, it's kind of a joint effort amongst. How many people did it on the last round? Had to be.
I don't know if it's honestly
right?
the year before last was the biggest year. And I don't know the exact numbers, but altogether over the 4 years, we did over $25,000, which was pretty awesome. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot of places around the world where that's a lot of money that, it's always a lot of money. That's a lot of money, period. But I know in the States, people can kind of scoff and, it's easy to see big numbers all over the place, but that's a lot of money. And I'm sure it did a lot of good for a lot of people. So I'm pretty proud of that. Definitely proud of all the people that entered and participated and did what they could to bring help to other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Devin in the chat. So as we do these, like we'll post the video after. So I tend to kind of call out things that are going on in the chat because in the video after you can't see any of the chat comment. So Devin's saying, hey, our Epsilon group, which is actually the one is still going strong. We were active in there today, and it's junk like one of the people in the group was like, "Hey, I need some .8 millimeter right to thread for a project going on this weekend. Can anybody overnight me some tomorrow?" And like within an hour or two, a couple of us were like, "Oh yeah, I've got it. I'll run it by the post office tomorrow and I'll overnight it to you." And persisted. So I mean, it's one thing to kind of set that thing up, and then when you step away from it, that it just dies. But the really cool part is all of this stuff is continuing to go on.
Yeah.
As a thing that lives on, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. I think I was surprised. I started the collective right before COVID hit, and my initial intentions for it were to actually make it an in-person convention. That was kind of the plan for it. And then COVID hit and everything changed, obviously. And I think it changed for the better. I think it created a lot more opportunity, a bigger opportunity than really I planned on. You know, I planned on making it more of selfishly. I wanted to bring a bunch of people to Tampa and show off how awesome our city was. But, you know, it probably worked out for the best. So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so Devin's saying daily inspirations or daily notifications flowing through that chat. It's inspired me to create a group for leatherworkers building a YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, it keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, I know a few people have brought podcasts out of it. I know there's a lot of things people are doing, and it's super cool. So I don't even know all the things going on. I mean, I didn't even know this was going on, and I'm friends with you guys. So it's just, you can't keep up with how much stuff's going on. It's super cool to see how the community's grown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'll chime in real quick because, you know, I don't want to reminisce too much, but I know, you know, Bryan kind of alluded to him starting in 2017, 2018, and that's kind of when HFA blossomed, if you will, and we'll consider it like a wilted flower that's, you know, now somewhat received like a little bit of light, and you know it is what it is. But with that being said, like I think, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, we kind of hit it off, or a lot of the early on conversations were kind of around this exact topic. And back in the day, you know, and I can say that now because it's been 5 years, like, you know, there was plenty of times when we were trying to learn as, you know, brand new people into the craft that we're trying to figure out just kind of how to navigate, right? Like simple things, like to your point, Chuck, about someone asking about thread, like the amount of people that I probably reached out to that, you know, you guys in here in this chat know, and some of these people that are definitely on here definitely know who they are. I won't name names, but the amount of people that I reach out to just for like simple, nonsensical questions like, hey, how did you do this? Or, hey, what do you do for this? You know, have you ever heard of, you know, what do you do for templates, so on and so forth, and got like mumbo jumbo or just ignored or ghosted is incredible. You know, so I think the really cool thing about this is, you know, there's now a group of people, and I think a lot of the people here, and you know, even us, like, you know, 5-6 years we've been doing this. It was just very different, I guess, you know, 5 years ago when, you know, you would reach out to someone thinking you were asking a simple question, you know, not even asking for a thread, you know, per se that you needed for a project, but hey, what do you do for your edges, or you know, what kind of skyver do you use, or whatever it is, only to get a response that was like, hey, I'm not gonna tell you my secret, you know, and that's kind of how a lot of this stemmed. Yeah, this is kind of how a lot of my early on experience, and again, like, you know, we're not here to, you know, bash people per se, you know, maybe we get that into an hour from now or whatever, but which is typically how these things turn. But you know, like for me, there was a lot of like, I'm not gonna tell you how I do things because, you know, this is my world and I don't want you infringing on, you know, my customers and so on and so forth. Now keep in mind, you know, I'm making, you know, 2 pieces of leather slapped together and calling it a card holder. I have no business even, like, I'm not stealing customers for anyone. Like I'm trying to figure out how to literally make something.
Yeah.
So, you know, you shouldn't feel threatened in any, you know, any stretch of the imagination. So for me, I think the coolest thing that's kind of transpired over the last, you know, 4 or 5 years is just the openness that people, I guess, have shown, you know, on this platform. And I think that the LCC and the you know, the collective, if you will, you know, has only kind of like sped up that process and allowed people, like an actual group of people that they feel comfortable talking with, to have those kind of conversations with. So I mean, that's like a real life example, and I can't stress that enough. Like what you just said, Chuck, is something that 5 years ago, like I can confidently sit here and say, like, would never have happened. Like that just wasn't a thing. Like no one would have overnighted me shit. Let alone tell me like, hey, like this is the knife that I use to cut out my stuff, or like, hey, you should be using, you know, thinner thread, whatever it is, you know, or instead of using the 6-ounce leather you're using to make a card holder, maybe you should think about using 3-ounce leather. Like even that kind of stuff was like off limits, you know. So I think that again, like, you know, for those like listening or whatever, and you know, some of you guys maybe being new, and you know, us being around as veterans, I guess, which sounds crazy to say, is just a wild concept. You know, there's so many people out there that are willing to help right now. Lean on those people. Lean on us. I mean, I have, you know, if anyone reaches out to me, which again is rare, you know, I have no problem sharing whatever knowledge I guess I have. So, and I think everyone would agree and saying the same thing.
And I'd say you have plenty of knowledge to share at this point, Tyler. So,
Yeah.
you know, be as humble as you want, but
I'm looking at right now multiple not like French skivers. I got like a bell knife. None of that. I don't even know how to use that stuff. I don't even know how to sharpen that stuff. So
I know.
it just sits
I'm in the
there.
boat with you.
Yeah, I make decent stuff. I'll acknowledge that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to some of the stuff, like just listening to Chuck and listening to Melissa the last, you know, couple weeks. I mean, I come on these things as like one of the people that's on screen, but like I walk away and I take like 2 or 3 notes every single time of just stuff that I didn't know. So it's, you know, it's been awesome.
Yeah, Matt's asking if I cut my hair. Yes, I did cut my hair. But yeah,
Nice.
I mean, it's, and I will say, starting this along, you know, years and years ago, there was a deficit of information. I mean, even like Eric Concorder's, you know, videos on YouTube, he wouldn't give you the full recipe to do what he did. So there was pieces, and that used to, before I actually knew him, it used to piss me off to no end, where I was like, I watched your video and God damn it, it's missing like 4 pieces of information. Like you didn't tell me what leather weight to use. You didn't tell me what any of that stuff. But the cool part of him doing that, it kind of forced you to figure it out clumsily, but you still had to figure it out on your own. But now there's such a different, I think, learning curve to what we do, because there's so much information about this stuff out there already.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go figure out how to tool something, you know, that's Melissa's area. I mean, I've never messed around with that, but I think just in general, there's so much stuff that either this platform or YouTube or whatever else has put out there that someone who has an interest in it can get all the information they need to be successful in a pretty short period of time.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I started like 7 years ago or so, and it was before any sort of YouTube tutorials came out, and it was hard, like you said. Like you couldn't just message people and ask them what to do. It just was non-existent.
Yeah, or people be pretty closed off about it. The interesting part, and you know, democratization of information that comes through platforms like this is, you know, casting stitches. It's a pretty simple thing, but you had people that were like, look, my front and the back are so pretty. And somebody go, how do you do it? And they'd go, fuck off, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, it takes one person to figure it out, and then everybody knows.
Yeah.
So
I made it my mission to essentially hound as many people as I could and learn as much as I could, so that I could then freely share it with literally everyone and just destroy everything that the people were trying to hide.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's, I mean, something simple like that, to the point, it's not a competitive advantage necessarily. Like, wow, you understand how to cast a stitch. Great.
Yeah.
It's just kind of bunk and gatekeeping and all that other stuff.
Also, not to cut you off, Chuck. Also, like understanding, like let's just address the elephant in the room here. Like the 4 of us and the majority of people that are probably tuning into this video, like, you know, you're selling a wallet for anywhere between, let's call it $40 and I don't know, $80 if you're not using shell cordovan or some, you know, fancy exotic. And 97% of the people that you're selling to don't give one fuck about the back stitch that you have. Like, they could care less. You know, they have no idea. And like we've talked about this before, the wallet that you make that you know you messed up is the first wallet that sells. So like, you know, to your point, it's like, yeah, I mean, we can hide these so-called industry secrets, I guess, if you want to call it that, or, you know, we could just let people believe that they're learning something that, you know, is going to give them some sort of competitive advantage without being like a jerk about it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And I do want to add just this one aspect. The community was, or I don't even want to call it a community because it wasn't a community. The limited number of people that were doing it, the majority of them weren't full time. You know, it wasn't their livelihood. You know, so I do want to separate the people who were hobbyists and small business. Or even like supplemental business with people that were potentially, you know, focused on making a living. So I'm not talking about sharing, but I'm talking about like, you know, not necessarily having the time per se. I'm not trying to jump on those people. I do know some people were busy. So I do know, you know, this isn't a giant blanket, but for the most part, yes, people need to just humble themselves and try to help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, you can try and gatekeep stuff, but somebody will figure it out. There's a lot of really smart and, you know, creative and people who can reverse engineer your shit just by looking at it. So because to the point, like, you post some sort of unique design or whatever, I mean, we've seen it happen where somebody posts a flap wallet or a whole stitchless wallet, and within hours, somebody will figure it out just by looking at you. It's totally folded. You know, you turn it over on camera, and within hours, it's figured out. I mean, so yeah, and your wife's making a good point, and they will do it better than you. So cool. Turn around and tell me how you did it better than me, so that I can improve what I did. I mean, that's kind of how the leapfrogging of this whole thing works, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's also, if you post a struggle. So it's not everything is always roses or whatever. You know, some people's feeds look like a catalog. Some people's are kind of mixed. Some people are all processed, whatever it is. But, you know, at some point, somebody's going to figure it out and then contribute it back. Let's see. Somebody submitted a question through the app. I don't know. He's just saying, love the work we do. So... Nice. I mean, it's I don't know. My opinion on it has always been, I can tell everybody exactly how I do it. And I typically do. It doesn't mean you can replicate it, because knowledge doesn't mean application. So if you practice it for a while, because it's, you know, you learn something, you practice it, you know, the whole 9 yards. Like, Bryan, with what you do professionally, like, you could hand somebody else a fully measured drawing and say, knock yourself out.
Sure.
They couldn't produce the same results.
Yeah.
And that's another big part of it. I mean, take the same pattern and give it to all four of us, you're going to get a different result. Like, even if we start with the same exact pattern, the same exact leather, the same tools, the same everything, you're still going to get a different result because of, you know, what's between the tool and the floor is the person that's involved in it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I really enjoy us doing this stuff. And like, I want to put my face out here because there's an actual person behind what we do, right? That I think a lot of people overlook. You know, you hear it, I don't do markets, but people that do, you know, people walking by and making shitty comments and stuff like that, you're like, hey, there's a person that's here that's done all this stuff. And that's what makes the difference. Like, you can get a mass produced whatever, but it doesn't have the person that made it, right? Nice to see Skinner's working together. Cool. So we got a couple of questions. One of them that was earlier in the comments was, if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice when you started, what would it be? Everybody's got an answer. Who wants to go first?
Do you want me to go? Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, go.
I think the only, like, the number one advice I would have given myself is to not start a business on credit cards, and to maybe research a little bit better. I definitely, like, I've talked about it before, I fell into the, like, flashy sort of, YouTube sales pitch bullshit and bought a lot of tools and leather and things that just like didn't need to be bought. So, yeah. And that goes hand in hand with the not starting a business on credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A similar thought. If you're a small, leather goods company, you probably don't need a sewing machine. Like if you're not gonna be busting out thousands of products and it's your full-time gig, you probably don't need one. I bought a $4,000 sewing machine, made like one thing on it, sold it, lost a couple grand. That's don't buy a sewing machine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have one sitting over there that I never use. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Oh man, I mean, my gut reaction was going to be kind of along the same lines. I guess for me, it was probably researching the craft a little bit more and understanding what actually was needed to make something. For me, I started out, with the most, basic things that you could ever have, and realized very quickly that there was a ton of additional tools that were needed to like actually, make something worth even considering selling. Right. So, like I started with like an edge beveler. For me, like I just didn't have when I started, right? Like, simple things like that. I would say, obviously to your point, Chuck, there's a lot of stuff out there that probably explains kind of like exactly what you need. Like here's your 12 tools that you probably need to have. I started out with like 4, pricking irons, thread, needle, and glue. And that was like, that's where I started. So I guess that would be, I don't want to call it a cop out, but that's probably my one regret, was not knowing exactly what I needed before I like really dove deep into it. And, the good news is, you just kind of pile up, tools as you kind of keep going, based on what you need, and don't spend a ton of money on them. That would be like my next big thing is like, going out and buying $100 edge beveler when you can buy one for $19.99 is, I guess to each their own, but, I've made that mistake, and I consistently use the stuff that, was the $20 versus, $150. Like I said, I mean, I have a bunch of knives here that I've never even touched that for some reason I thought, I needed, and they just sit here. So that's mine.
Yeah. I would say kind of on the same similar vein, it's once you do this for a bit, and if you think you want to start turning it into something more than just you dorking around with a little bit of extra spare time, go ahead and form a company, because when you buy that at a loss, you get the tax benefit from that.
Yeah, sure.
So that's probably a level 201 or 301 kind of thing, but it's all this tool and leather and everything else kind of adds up really quickly. And if you're not paying attention to the point, you can have spent thousands of dollars on stuff and not even really be good at it yet. But I mean, I don't know. I think the advice I'd give myself, my standard advice I always give is, make your tool earn its place and exceed the capability of the tool you have before you start to upgrade it. Nobody needs to go buy the Ferrari for their first car. Drive your Beat or Civic around for a while, and whenever you have exceeded the capabilities of your beginner set of tools, then look at something else. But don't get trapped into, I need to go buy this, super high-end custom skiving knife from day one if you haven't tried skiving at all. Because no tool that's out there is going to make you better. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that you can buy that's a tool for any of this stuff that's magically going to make you better.
Right.
There's some stuff
I will say, let me chime in just because I'm looking at it right next to me, and going like I started, and I think I want to say I spent my first at least 2+ years without a stitching pony. And if there's one tool that you should get that will just not only help you and again, maybe make your products a little bit better, but also just like save your back and your health and everything like that, stitching out your kneecaps is never the answer. So if you spend $60 on a stitching pony that you can just, fasten to your workbench, or even like one of the stand-up ones, I'd argue that is like one of the best investments I've ever made. yeah, it looks cool, and I use it for at this point every single product I make. So invest in one of those.
Shameless plug. My buddy Mike runs Wing and Wave Designs. He makes like walnut ponies. They're beautiful. Yeah, there you go. There's one. He makes fly and walnut ones, and he's a great guy. He serves in the Coast Guard. He's just down to earth, family dude, super humble, really, really great guy. So if you want to support small business and you need a stitching pony, hit up Mike, Wing Wave Designs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fact.
I will say, and somebody else, it was Mutiny Leather, asked a question in my stories or whatever about what are the tools that, so quality budget tools you can make yourself, and tools not to skimp on. Tools you can make yourself. I made my stand-up stitching pony myself, and it's awesome. Like, I love it. I made it with a super deep throat so I can, make bags on it or whatever. And I want to say I just Googled stitching pony. What you got, Bryan?
Just a strap. I see people buy straps when they've got piles of leather in their studio, and it's amazing that people would do that, because why? I mean, this is the same disgusting piece of tandy leather I've had since 2017. That does the exact same thing. So don't buy a strap.
I mean, that's hilarious. Like, that's almost like the best memorialization of the manager's special double shoulder that you get from Tandy. Piece of leather.
Yeah. Like Ty said earlier. I mean, this is a card holder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's what we all started with. I'd say
Correct.
for me, what I've done in multiple different situations for multiple different purposes, I guess, is I've actually, to Bryan's point, kind of taken, when I have, either 5-6 ounce leather left over from, a hide that I'm making a bag on that, it's just like a weird piece that I'm not going to get anything from. I'll take like 3 or 4 different pieces of that, try and cut out something that's as close to a square, rectangle, whatever as possible, glue them together. And I'll use that a lot of times, like on top of my, like pounding mat or on, underneath my, arbor press or whatever, just because I've always been in apartments, so the less noise, the better. So just working off of, a rubber mat, stitching, a bag or something like that. Obviously, there's a ton of repetitive pounding. So I'll take like 2 or 3 pieces of 5 ounce leather, slap it over top of the rubber mat, and use that to kind of silence the sound a little bit. And it's been awesome. And after 2-3 months of using it or whatever, you recycle it out and you got your other pieces that you're putting together to kind of do it. It's not necessarily a tool, but again, it's a way to not just throw leather into the garbage, kind of recycle it a little bit. So that's probably my big one. I don't have the craftiness or whatever to like make my own tools, I guess. So that's my cop out.
There you go.
Another point I would have made on the what not to do when you start out. Don't buy materials for customers that you don't have. You do not need to have 400 different varieties of leather to entice one person to buy a wallet. If you're not selling wallets, you do not need to have every option for every person that you're not selling to.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've even seen recently, I was looking at somebody's website, and you make one wallet, you take a picture of it, and all the suppliers that we use, you can go take a screenshot of the website that shows whatever that leather is. Here's all the colors, and that's your second picture.
Exactly.
So you give them a picture of what the design looks like, and here's all your leather options. But you don't have to go buy 15 panels of leather to make one of those widgets out of all 15 and photo shoot it and all that other junk. I mean, I guess it's different if you're like launching a brand or launching a design or whatever else. But if you're starting doing this, pick one that you like and roll with it. And to the point, it's, don't necessarily go run out and buy the most expensive leather day one either. Everybody needs that crappy tandy piece of leather to start out with.
Yes.
Oh.
What really sucks is you start fucking around with the $20 a square foot piece of leather, and stuff's going to get really expensive really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're gonna screw it up. That's just how this stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your knife is gonna slip. Like, I can't tell you the number of times, like, when you're starting, it's, and even for me, before I figured out, I should probably cut down the side of a ruler as opposed to just trying to freehand this. and it's, you know, you dig into the leather, whatever, and it's just kind of whatever. But go with some cheaper material, and even that's not going to go to waste, because even the stuff that I started out with is cheaper is still good for prototyping now. You know, I've got freaking half a hide of skirting back there that's, you know, all bust out if I'm just dorking around with something because it was cheap.
Yeah.
So I think some folks can get trapped up in, for their second or third piece of leather, they want to go buy a piece of shell cordovan because they see it and it looks cool and everything else. And, you know, not only is it an extremely different animal than your typical just regular cow, you know, veg stand stuff, but it's really, really expensive. And it might be cool, but when you jack it up, that's going to be a problem. Or, I mean, whatever, if you're looking to burn money.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's definitely, that's the number one way that you can, and that I do, burn money is, you know, shell is expensive, and all the things I said about materials and whatnot, that's a lesson maybe I haven't fully learned myself. But you know, yeah, careful with the shell, guys.
yeah, well, that's Devin's making a good point. Like, one of the other things that can elevate your stuff quickly is using the right weights. So make that same wallet with the proper weight leather for what you're trying to make, and that'll improve your end result more than any amount of time practicing with stitching ponies and whatever else, right?
And also, technique. I mean, I'm thinking, when I started, I was under this impression that the reason my stitching lines weren't straight was because my irons weren't good enough, right? Like that was the justification. I needed better irons to stitch straighter, which made no sense because my cheap Tandy irons were straight. So anyway, it's not just the irons, it's also the mallet or the maul. It's also the substrate under the leather. It's the technique. It's not just the tools, and it's not just the individual tool. It's not just experience. All of it together. You know, you have to really consider all of the different aspects, and don't go in on a really nice set of irons if you're not set up to actually use them correctly. And definitely don't go in on a pair of irons that aren't intended to be used as punch-through irons, or, you know, make sure you're buying what's actually intended for how you're going to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good. Yeah. Let me look at what I got for questions. There was one that was in the comment. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was just going to say, I think one thing that I see a lot, and I was very guilty of it early on, was I don't even know what they're, the irons that you use, Bryan. I don't know what those are called, because I use regular chisels for my stuff. What are they, like Japanese? What's the term? What's the term for, like, what they call those though? French irons.
They're Japanese style irons. Yeah,
Japanese style irons, right? So where it's just like a slit, and I see a lot of people, and I don't spend too much time kind of on this app looking at a ton of stuff, but I think one of the things I see a lot of nowadays are people that are using those, and it's like, probably it's high risk, high reward, right? When you do it the right way and you know how to do it, it looks awesome. And when you don't, your stitches come out very wonky, and it's like you know, it's tough to, like, really nail that. And I think one thing I've seen personally is, like, people jumping right to those style of irons, which have less give than, you know, like, I know, Melissa, and I think you use probably a chisel, if I'm guessing.
I use the diamond shape.
Yep, diamond shape chisel. Yep, same here. And I had like a 3-month period where I went Cinnabrooks, you know, whatever it was, Japanese style iron. Yep, exactly. Yeah. And it was great. And, like, when it looks good, it looks great. But yeah, I mean, I think it probably makes more sense to learn on either a circular punch or some sort of diamond chisel before jumping right into some sort of, you know, Japanese style, French style that just has a little less leeway to kind of mess up. And when you mess up, I think you can kind of tell a little bit easier. But
especially if you haven't heard the term casting, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
And let us not forget.
But I'm glad that Tyler abandoned them because he mailed them to me. So thank you.
I did.
Perfect.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I also had
these super fun guys that everybody got. This is the only one I kept.
Those are the Weavers, buddy. That's what I used up until like a year ago. No joke. They were the greatest things in the world. $30.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I snapped more of these than anything else. I mean, because that's the other thing. Like
what are you doing with those things?
What's that?
What are you doing with those things? I used mine for like 4 years.
Because of course, like the first big piece of leather I bought was like a 6-ounce buffalo hide, and trying to punch through like 3 layers of that with these, like, and of course, nobody told me like when you're pulling it out, don't do this, do this.
Right.
So of course, the first time I do this, and these aren't great quality steel, and it was just bink, and like broke off 3 of the tines the first time I used it or whatever.
Oh shit.
It all happens.
Guess I've been lucky. What do I got? I got a set of the Japanese style right here.
Oh, there.
Untouched.
Those are that's that like Utah special, right?
No, this was remember when we were on the what was it, Kimawan?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Untouched.
Hey, equally awesome. I got lots of that stuff, lots of that cheap stuff.
That's what
I used their little baby
wing divider.
Yeah, it's so cute. Everybody thought it was so cute, and then everybody got on it. And I mean, I can't get off it. It's such a tiny little divider.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect.
I just had to get rid of mine because like the tip started getting a little too.
Yeah, they
like
get
you could start,
little. Yeah.
Start bending.
I got a baby one too.
No,
it's just little.
Yeah, but that's like good quality. Like the tip doesn't. The tip on this thing was like it was like a tooth. It was a toothpick.
Yeah, this
so
is
like.
I mean, it's like a dental tool.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Okay, yeah.
It's like
these are nice.
It's fragile. I typically really only use shell, so it's soft. It's it doesn't really have too much problem. But yeah, if you're like going at it, these aren't gonna last very long.
Oh no.
I learned that the hard way.
That's too funny. That the tips start to line up like that, and they don't touch anymore.
Like
5 millimeters becomes 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Bryan doesn't even have to stretch his out because it's just already a millimeter. It's already
exactly
a millimeter wider.
It's just it's like whatever. Everyone's different. It's fine.
Yeah. Somebody asked about good quality budget tools. I think what I've seen out of like the Oka factory ones are pretty good quality budget tools. I don't know if you guys have any other of those you've seen.
I was gonna say Oka too. Their stuff's really great.
I got this little. This is another Kimavan special, but like a little sanding block. Yeah, it was like $12.
I don't think I've heard anything over like 15 or 20.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I placed an order probably 3 years ago, and then maybe like a year and a half ago. And I think like both times I got 5 or 6 different things, like irons, wing divider. I mean, multiple different things. I think I got a beveler somewhere sitting around, and like, I mean, you pay, I don't know, $80-$90, Bryan, and then I think they nab you for like, they hit you pretty good on the shipping. I want to say shipping was like $40 or something that. But you're looking at it and you're like, all right, it's $120 for five items. That
Well, I think Wuda does through Amazon now, actually. Yeah. So there's. I think the Muda or the Wuda and the Kamovan stuff is quality enough to start.
Start. Hey, I'm still using it, man. Come on.
No, I mean,
I say like it's my bread and butter.
I genuinely, I have not bought a tool for leathercraft in at least 3 years.
Yeah,
I haven't. God, what did the last thing? I don't know that I bought any. Oh, I bought some creaser tips this week, but that's about it. And that's the other part about, once you get a basic set of tools, it's work with the crap you've got before you buy anything else. Like, it's constantly running out and buying tools. You're not giving yourself time to get good with the tools you have.
Sure.
So that can be interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody in the actual chat itself asked, "Hey, what's your bread and butter of what you sell?" Because they're having a problem with. I guess they've got a display at the store somewhere and said, The only thing that I can move at my store is keychains. So
Yeah, that's a blessing.
what product are you guys?
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Moving keychains, that's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Keychains that's a good thing to move. But
keychains, coasters. I've had a lot of success with just like basic coasters, which obviously, you can either make yourself if you have a press that you can press out on. You can cut them out by hand if they're just a square, which I think pretty much everyone could probably do. Or you can just go and pay Buckle Guy, $10 for a set of 4, which I've done a lot, and sell a set of coasters for $25 and still make some money on it. So coasters, keychains. I feel like in stores, because I've kind of ventured down this a little bit. I don't know if Chuck, I don't know if you sold in stores, or Bryan, if you have done stuff in stores, but like I feel like you kind of have to know the audience, and you kind of like my first question back, and I didn't see the question from who it came in from, but my first question would be, I would talk to the store and kind of figure out what their clientele is, and I would figure out what the median kind of order is coming through their store. Is it something where people are spending $12 because your $90 wallet's probably not going to sell, or your $300 handbag's definitely not going to sell. But if it's like a $70 average order, then I think you can kind of play the long game there if you want. So
that's a good point.
Tough to really answer that question, but from my experience personally, I've tried to put shell cordovan and wallets in stores. I've tried to put bags in stores. I've tried to put, all this other stuff in stores. And to your point, like most of the time the stuff that goes is like your cheapest wallet, keychains, knickknacks, coasters, and basic things, because it's something that someone can grab off the shelf and be like, oh, this is $20. Cool. I'll add that to my $60 order. What's another $20? So I don't know if anyone else has any comments on that.
I would add that if you do want to sell those higher priced items, you need to find the right store for them. Like, don't stop making them if that's what you want to do. You just need to put them in the right store. So there's Calavera Tours. He's part of that group. Yeah. So Mike's part of our Epsilon group, right?
Okay.
He recently has started stocking some stuff around Charleston, and he found the right shop. And it's more of a boutique thing, but he made full on like rolled top tote bags out of Botero and took them in there. And he took 5 of them in, and 3 sold while he was standing in the store.
Yeah, but have you met Mike in person?
Oh yeah, of course.
Have you met Mike in person? That dude could sell anything to anybody all day. Oh my gosh, Mike is wild. So.
Well, it was a ladies' boutique, and he's not an unattractive man either. So
he's sexy for sure.
Don't be scared to show some skin to sell a bag. It's okay.
Oh, he's not. That's
right.
I'm like going down that route right now about potentially putting like a bunch of different handbags, crossbody bags, tote bags, you name it, backpacks, into a store. And like now I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go to the store and maybe put on something skimpy. To do that, which it'll get weird, but it's, at the end of the day, if it helps me sell knowing this story, then
what's weird is the baby oil. That's where it gets weird. It's not just showing the skin. Yeah. It's when they're like, "What's that guy doing? He's lubing up. He's ready to start selling some stuff."
Why is he so shiny?
Yeah, he smells kind of funky. Yeah,
oh,
I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on kind of the item question, because I think that's a good question, and I think that going back to kind of just the theme of this kind of chat, I guess, is speaking to our earlier selves, not only about tools and regrets and so on and so forth. I think one thing that a lot of people aspire to get into out of the gates is getting into wholesale and getting into getting their stuff in store and in front of people. Now, I'm not talking markets where you set up a shop and it's you and your stuff and you're sitting at a coffee shop or whatever. Right. I'm talking, I got to get my stuff in this store because for whatever reason, I like this store. I think my stuff would be really good in this store. And again, like understanding when you do that, the wallet that you make for $80 and sell individually to Chuck, you're now selling to probably the store owner for $40,
right.
which is a lot, So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that, or I didn't get into stores probably until 2021, I want to say, or maybe 2020, late 2020. But it was something that I was like chomping at the bit to do, and I'm glad I didn't bite that off, I guess, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Melissa, you got any thoughts on that, or Bryan?
No, I think I think you said it perfectly. Like, just know the audience of the store and what kind of stuff would actually move, so you're not, filling up full of stock that you could maybe sell elsewhere, or, offer at like a market or something like that too, or just having stock if you have a website. Yeah, that's about it.
I mean, that's a really interesting point. Is if you're putting your stuff in a store and it's not moving, you have inventory costs tied up in that stuff that's sitting in a store.
Yeah. It's
not a no cost item to you. Like, you spent your time and materials and everything else to stock this shop. And if it's not selling, that's somewhat like, you got to figure out what to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you got
make sure you know the buyback policy.
Yeah.
That exactly. Too. Yeah.
Right. Somebody buys something and they bring it back 3 days later after they've used it for a couple days. Mm-hmm. Are you doing as all sales as final? I mean, that can get dicey too. Same thing for Etsy. I mean, we've talked about that before, and selling stuff online. It's especially for like made to order stuff. So if you're doing a made to order item, there probably needs to be a pretty exceptional reason that you would take it back from someone who bought it. And you got to be clear about that up front.
I think. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think too, like, knowing the policy. Like, I was asked to be part of an art gallery gift shop on the Permanent at one point. Like, I think this was a couple of years ago, and their theft policy or damage was that they would only pay half of what like the artist's amount was. So like, they would take 40% commission off the top. So the artist take home was like 60%. So if something got stolen or damaged, they would only pay 30% of the items worth or whatever. So at that point, I was like, I'm losing money because something got stolen from your store. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of a weird thing. So I think there's also like building that relationship with the places that you're selling, so you know that they're actually looking after your stuff too. I just got into like our little local, we have like a local craft shop. So there's like potters and artists and whatever else on the island. And I just put my stuff in there, but they gave me like a nice little, like this little glass apothecary sort of case to keep all my stuff in. Cause I was like, it can't be in the sun cause it'll get a, sunburn. Right. Cause a lot of it's like natural or whatever. And I'm like, and I would prefer if people aren't getting their greasy little paws all over it all the time too. Yeah. And they did, and they're so great. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you start out, there's a lot of, well, maybe I'm projecting this, but there's a lot of internal pressure to sell, be successful, get into stores, do this or do that, and you're less concerned about, the take home or the, turnover. Like, you really do have to, it is important in the beginning. You really do have to start fundamentally correctly. You can't just say, well, I'll get my foot in, I'll start doing this and that, and then I'll be able to charge X or, whatever, make my terms. And that's just not how it works. Once they get you, they got you. And if you then want something different, likely they're going to say no, and you're going to say, well, that's what I need, and they're going to say, see ya. So you got to fight for what you need up front. Definitely don't assume it's going to get better later, because typically it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that can lead to a race to the bottom in terms of price, and then you end up doing things at a loss, because when you're first starting out, you really want to sell stuff. You really want to, oh, this is really important, so I'm going to do this one at no cost, or I'm not going to make any profit on this one, but the next one I'll make money on.
Right.
You will chase that forever, because again, once you set something in that price, especially if you're looking at stores and whatever else, because all of a sudden that keychain that you're selling them for $12, then all of a sudden when you stop and, again, from a business perspective, you go, I'm breaking even, so you're actually losing money at $12. You go back to them and go, I really need to bump these up to like 20. Mm-hmm. And Bryan, to your point, they're going to go, well, cool. we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they'll flip you to do the whole, cool, I'll do it on consignment then. Which
And
then gets really
I see a
tricky.
comment in there about that.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say the one thing before you guys go down the consignment rabbit hole, because I know you guys want to go there. I'd say the one thing too to just keep in mind, and I've definitely fallen into this trap, and I don't know if anyone else has, but to what you just said, Chuck, like also keep in mind that when you're sitting down to make, your standard wallet that you're really, that you love making on your own and selling for $60. Understand that when you're selling it for $35 to someone, you still have to kind of have the same passion, right? And the same kind of, the same brain power when you're doing it, right? So whatever that number is, whether it's $35, $40, $45, and I'm sure, whoever you're working with is probably, trying to, make as much money as possible off of what they're selling that you make. You still have to have at least the bandwidth, the focus, and some sort of enjoyment, I guess, to make that same piece, knowing that you're selling it for $30 when you could easily turn around at a market or online or sell it to Melissa for $60. Something to keep in mind. But you guys can talk about consignment because I have no prior history of really going down that route, but I can imagine it's pretty slippery.
Well, and just to piggyback off your stuff, I mean, I've done that before where I've had, wholesale orders that, typically you're selling wholesale for about half of what you would at retail.
Right.
It's because somebody's coming to you saying, hey, I want to do wholesale and I'll order 20 pieces. So cool. And I have 100% felt that, where it's, you have a wholesale order in front of you and you're like, oh,
don't want to touch
this is some bullshit.
Don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it because I'm not making a ton of money off this, but it can suck the life out of you and not make you want to do it for a while.
That's kind of been my my thought process on it. And, part of the reason, like the stores that I do get involved with, I guess, like upfront, the conversation is like, what are the expectations, right? Because if you're trying to push volume and, you need me to, put out 30 pieces or 40 pieces or this, that, and the other thing, like, I'm just not your person. I'll turn you over to someone else. So like, luckily for me, it's like, sit down, we're going to do like a 12-piece capsule. And, when the 12's gone, like, call me back up and we'll do something else. But I've also done a couple of things where it's like, okay, we're going to release 75 items. And now you're sitting there looking at 75 items, bags, wallets, you name it. And you're like, I just truly don't want to do this. Like this is, and you think about it and you're like, not only do you have a deadline probably because, they kind of have you, by the neck, if you will. But you're also like making the same piece probably 12 to 15 times. And that you're turning, that you're making 30, 40, 50% of what you would normally make if you were to just sell at retail. That will suck the life out of you, and that will make 2 weeks of like pretty much living hell, and you'll have to take 2 months off afterwards to like just get your sanity back. And that's happened to me a couple of different times. So that's my last thought on that.
Yeah, it's either that or you have to change your production method. So it's if you encounter those high volume stuff, I mean, high volume for somebody who's doing this by hand is like 20 pieces. Like that's a lot to make 20 wallets, even 20 card cases to sit there. And if you were drawing it out with a scratch awl and then getting your X-Acto out and cutting it, and I've done that too. I mean, that can wear on you in and of itself, but that's the point where you also have to have the wherewithal to know, okay, cool, I should probably have a die cut for this. And, or even to the point now, the really cool part about this stuff, you can call up District or Rocky Mountain and send them a file, and they will cut all that crap out for you on their cutting table at a charge, of course. So even back when we started this, if somebody said, I want you to make 50 pieces of something, you have to sit there and start doing the math in your head about, should I buy a clicker press and a die because I'm going to make so many of these? Now you don't even really have to do that. You can just have the supplier cut it out for you and send it to you. I mean, maybe some people don't know that, but
guilty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Every single one of what I'm just telling you, like 60, 70 piece orders. And I mean, the people here probably know, but a lot of other people probably don't. Like, I don't have a clicker press. I have one acrylic die for a belt. I don't like every single thing legitimately for me is hand cut. And there's no saving time. There's no sewing machine or anything like that. So like, I went down the rabbit hole of, I'm going to cut, like I had to do, no joke. The worst thing I ever experienced was, I think I did 60 coasters, double-sided, corked on the inside. This was right before I moved to Denver. I was in Rochester. I was at my parents' house. I was sending, my carry-on bag was loaded with like literally squares of leather, you name it, like flying across the country with edge bevelers. And I'm sitting there, no stitching pony, 60 coasters or 30 sets, double-sided, stitched, corked middle, out of my kneecaps, like 2 years
Holy
ago.
shit.
I would. Oh God.
Oh, buddy.
You want to talk about just really reevaluating like what you're doing. Yeah, go down that rabbit hole.
Oh God. Yeah. That the sewing machine comment doesn't apply to these scenarios. That's the time to to do, if you're gonna if you are gonna endeavor on 100-piece orders and it's fully stitched items, that is the time when you have to start considering a sewing machine. I mean, it is not practical. It is not even probably smart to try to accomplish that in a hand-stitched means, unless the client agrees to pay your retail price and then to charge their client a higher price.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I need a business agent.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the physical wear and tear on your body of doing that is just not. I mean,
the carpal tunnel.
The carpal tunnel, just your fingers like blisters, the whole 9 yards. I mean, don't destroy yourself for something you're going to make, a couple $100 on.
Yeah, well, you live and you learn. You live and you learn, and it was. I think that was definitely the biggest. I think that was the biggest thing I've bitten off as far as like a wholesale order. And needless to say, haven't gone back down that avenue since. So, like it's just one of those things, right? Like it's a little, test of your will. But it was like up until 2:00 in the morning, trying to. I mean, it was a nightmare. Carry on. It was bad.
Yeah, and it all depends. I mean, it's also like, are you trying to do it in 6 days, or are you trying to do it in 3 weeks? I mean,
it was like a week long. It was like it needed to be turned around in like 10 days, and I was flying back and forth across the country. It was someday I'll give you the actual rundown of the whole thing when we're not on live on this thing, Chuck. But like you would look at me and just be like, dude, you're an asshole. It's like this is so dumb.
I mean it's know your limitations. It's okay to say no. It's also okay to farm that work off to somebody else. Like we said, we have enough of a community here that, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I need, a big batch order like that, there's a handful of people you could reach out to and say, hey, I mean, for me, the way to do it is just refer the whole business off to them.
Sure.
Not subcontract the work out to them. Just say, hey, I'm not set up to do this kind of volume. My pal over here, so-and-so is, and they're happy to take on that kind of work. Let me do the soft introduction. And you have to kind of know and understand who you're referring business to. I mean, this is true, like with this stuff, with life in general, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to refer work to Bryan, I should have a decent relationship with Bryan so that when I approach him, I know he's looking for that kind of work. So you need to like reach out first and say, hey, Bryan, this guy reached out to me and said he's looking for 75 pieces. Is that something you're interested in? Don't just assume that Bryan's going to take it. Don't assume that he wants to do it. Right. But there's kind of a protocol for that to make you successful in a referral, that there's some formalities that are involved there. Like, be sure who you're going to kick that work to actually wants to do it, because you also want to maintain the relationship with the person that approached you. So if they have something smaller, they're not going to go, God, every time I go to that guy, he fucking dumps me off on somebody else.
Right.
So,
but also, why would that person keep coming to you in that situation?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and that's,
can't they take the hint?
Yeah,
right.
What a great person.
They don't get it.
Exactly.
What a great person.
Yeah, but I mean, and it's also on the flip side. If somebody kicks you some work, like, turn around and be appreciative and thankful and everything else that they thought of you. And hey, you know, if somebody wants, you know, a wallet tooled, I'm gonna send them over to Melissa. Like, I don't do tooling, you know, my pal Melissa does. Like, so, but yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to turn down work either if it's, because it's, you know, don't get yourself in a situation where it's the part where you agree to do it and then you're like, oh fuck, and you can't handle it. Don't get halfway deep into it and figure out you can't do it. I mean, there's one thing to be aspirational. There's another thing to put your own business and that customer at jeopardy at the same time, because you just don't feel like you can say no when you should.
And that's a good life lesson in general. I think we can just put out there too. You can say no.
Yeah, you can absolutely say no. I mean, or it's there's the flip side of that in consulting is I'm not going to tell you no. I'm just going to tell you it's a ridiculous cost, and you'll go off on your own. I mean, you can do that too, but you're still rolling the dice when somebody says, when you go, yep, that's going to be about $4,000, and they go, cool, when can I have it? Oh shit! Then you actually have to do it.
It does happen,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine you see that in this stuff plus professional stuff as well, where somebody's like, I want this ridiculous thing, and you're like, yeah, it's going to be, you know, $1 billion, and they go, cool. When?
More so on the other side, but definitely the same feeling of not goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, and you go, when? You're going to go, oh, I've got a backlog that's like a year long, and they go, okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Put me down. Put me in the queue.
Right. Put me in the queue, and you're like, fuck, none of this works. They're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called being honest. Another life lesson.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you can be honest without being nasty. It's just, hey, I'm, you know, thanks for reaching out. That's not something I'm really interested in taking on. You know, I'm super busy at the moment or whatever. You know, if you still want me to do it, come back to me in a couple months and maybe things will be differently.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
I think that's probably the best advice, to say, hey, like this it's of interest to me. It's just not something I can do right now. And I don't want to say it's not something I'll never do. So if you need it in a few months or a year or whatever, you know, hit me up. But, you know, right now it's just not, I don't have space for it.
Yeah, that's a great way to approach it. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just I can't right now. That's an excellent way to phrase it. Here's one for you. This is one from Skinner American Goods. Does anybody know who that is?
I don't think so.
I think I've heard of it.
I want to say yes, because I probably do. But
and Bryan, I think this one may have been specifically addressed to you. But,
okay, then yes.
How much sawdust can you fit in a batch of Rice Krispies before anybody notices it's in there?
Well, you know, I guess it depends on the wood. You know, if it's some walnut, it might taste pretty good. But I do like Rice Krispies. I like the question just from that standpoint. I love Rice Krispies. If I'm gonna do Rice Krispies, though, well, I don't do them. Let me. If my wife's doing Rice Krispies for me because she's so nice, you got to put the dried cherries in there. It's so good, dried cherries.
You know she's in here, right?
I think she left. I heard the freezer door open, so she might actually be getting a snack right now. She's probably left.
That's hilarious.
I will say that I mean, I don't know how many we've done of these chat. Oh wow. We've had a lot of people here tonight. Like I think we gotta do a better job of just like we've got a lot of people here. Like we don't usually do this well. So
that's
worth mentioning.
Devin mentioned early on that it's a 4-way with 25 people watching. So
yeah.
Wink.
Can't wait to see the future views.
Right. So there was one from one of our regular viewers. Who should we follow and or be inspired by? So for other leathercrafters out there, who's our recommendations of there it is, it's Midrifters. That was her question. Who should newer folks follow and be inspired by here on the platform?
I'm gonna give an answer that people don't want to hear. You should be following people that you want to have a relationship with, people you feel comfortable talking to, people that you can go back and forth with, people that can actually help you grow. Following somebody with 50,000 followers, it's probably not going to do much for your business. You may just be jealous. You may be, and I'm not saying there's no inspiration there. I'm not saying don't follow accounts that make great products or great things, great content at all. But if you're really trying to grow, if you're really trying to become a crafter, if you're new to the craft, make friends, learn together. I think like the beginning of the conversation saying, if you're reaching out to people that have huge, big responsibilities in the community, they probably don't have as much to give you. And that's fair. It makes sense. So I would say find people that are at your level, and then find people maybe a little bit above your level, and just kind of start there. I think that's going to breed a lot more growth. But then I think if you want a traditional answer, Sean Maverick, follow him for sure. He's awesome.
He's actually here, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I saw him pop in for a minute.
Yeah, usually pops on.
Yeah, it's the time difference works because I think it's first thing in the morning for him.
Yeah, he's in Thailand right now, I think.
Oh, I saw the elephant.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
there he is.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, which has been super fun watching his stories about travels, which is cool. I don't know. You guys, any recommendations for folks to follow?
Do you mean like people specifically, or just like what kind of accounts to follow?
No,
however you want to handle it.
Okay.
Specific people.
I could give a couple specifics.
With names. With names.
With names? Okay. Yeah, no, I think mostly just like Bryan said, like people, you can have a friendship with, or just like kind of learn from each other, whatever sort of thing. And I think more just like people that inspire you too. Like sometimes you end up, like you never know where these friendships end up coming from. Like I've been following this leathercrafter, his name's, he goes by Victory Made Goods, for quite a few years. He was always somebody that really inspired me. Fucking brilliant tooler, just an all-around great dude. And last week, he actually sent me a message. He runs Longview Leather out of Alberta, and we just started chatting, and just like one of the nicest people I've talked to in a while. And he was like, I don't know how I wasn't following you. And I was like, whatever, dude, like we're friends now. But like yeah, I think just finding people that inspire, and like don't suck energy at, like you said, like if you're scrolling through and you're seeing people with like 100,000 followers that aren't necessarily contributing anything you care to see, and maybe there's something you get jealous over or whatever, fucking get rid of them. You don't need to follow, like you're not obligated. If somebody's like a dick or steals something from you, you don't need to keep following them. Just, people that make social media enjoyable to be on versus a chore that you have to do to run your business is kind of, I guess, my advice.
Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I mean, that's a lot to digest, and there was a lot of what I was going to say. I think my biggest, I guess my biggest takeaway from like the early stages of doing this thing was, constantly kind of being enamored by those people that had already figured it out. I guess those people that, we're doing this full time, and we're very into the point of letting people know that they did this full time. And I think that for me, the interesting thing is like Instagram is, I used to look at it as like, this is the way that I communicate with people, and this is the way that I make sales, and this is the way that this is the only way that I can grow this thing, and so on and so forth. And the cool thing is like, I've kind of just realized over the course of the last, probably the last year, that that's just truly not the case. And like, so now really, I talk to a handful of people. So I get my simple answer would be follow the people that are on this call. And I think that they're all, they all come at it from the right standpoint, and they all have the right, the right mindset in place as far as helping you, directing you in the right spots. Find the group of people. And the one thing that I did well at the beginning, I guess, was I found a group of like, out of 4 to 6 people, Bryan being one of them, that just no matter what time of day, no matter what was going on, whatever it was, would always have some sort of response. Maybe it was a response you didn't like, or maybe it was a response that you didn't think of, or maybe it was a response that you had never thought of, whatever it was. But at least there's a response. So like the fact that nowadays, like even in this own community that we live in, like I think there's a lot more people that are receptive to that. Surround yourself with the people that are going to make you better. And I know that's like a generic, kind of whatever cheesy kind of thing, but truly that's what's gonna help you out. So I don't have any specific accounts. There's people that like I look at their stuff and I'm like Wild Frontier Goods. I'll shout them out. They make incredible pieces that are totally underpriced in my opinion. Like I think they make some of the greatest stuff that I've seen on Instagram, and no one really, I don't know, for whatever reason in like the leather world really gives them much of a shout out or whatever. They're kind of bigger into like the denim community, so on and so forth. But like super talented. So if I had to pick like one person, Wild Frontier, follow their stuff. They do amazing things. Otherwise, follow the people on here, follow the people that are close to you, and just get better and learn and be receptive and have conversations with people, because that's what's ultimately going to make your business, hobby, whatever you want it to be. So,
yeah, I would say to add to all that, and Hide Gear just commented, "Hey, Georgia Maker Meetup." I know that Bill's planning on doing one at BLS, and we've got a separate thing that we're looking at doing as well, like at least here local to Atlanta. But if you can find people that are local that do what you do, and you can do a physical meetup with them, that's big. I would encourage people to follow people here that I 100% agree with. Follow people who are going to have positive interactions with you, and they will hype you up, that because people like things in your stories, they like your posts, they comment your posts. Focus on those people that are interacting with you. They're the people you want to follow, the people that want to see you do well, and they're excited by what you do. You can get a lot of energy out of that. I would encourage people to follow some accounts that aren't the style that you do. So if you are an EDC small goods maker, find somebody like Peter Knits that's a Swiss super high-end luxury bag maker. Like, that's not your thing and it's not what you make, but you can learn a lot just from watching. And especially if there's a couple of the Asian crafters that are just really excellent at what they do. Follow them, especially if they're an account that produces a lot of process stuff. There's a person out there, Unblown Made, that just does incredible stuff. It's not really what I do, but you can get a lot of inspiration. I mean, there's a guy that I follow, Reed Hammer and Needle, a guy named Sam in Seattle, is a knife maker. Super good dude. But on top of that, like, makes beautiful stuff, and you can find inspiration in a lot of different places. Oh yes, and since Eric's in the chat, always Quarter is a good follow. Quarter's a good follow for a lot of different reasons, but he is brutally honest about the business side of this stuff if you pay attention to him. That has been invaluable as well. Sorry, Tyler, you were about to.
I was going to. So I think I don't know if I've talked to everyone about this at this point, but I think that the one thing that I don't know, I get a lot of joy out of, especially recently, and I don't know if it's because Denver's like a weird like leather crafter hub for whatever reason. I mean, there's like at least a half dozen people that I know of, that are doing what we do in this, whatever 20-30 mile radius. The one thing to your point that you just mentioned, Chuck, is like, and Bryan, we can, we've talked about this a bunch in the past, is like doing some sort of like larger scale meetup, whether it's in Florida or whatever. The one thing I think it's really cool is like, Instagram is a platform, and a lot of people I think show, half of their true colors, I guess, behind Instagram. Tell you what they want to, tell you what they want to tell you, make it seem like X, Y, and Z, take pictures of wallets, take pictures of whatever. And, everyone thinks they're whatever, I think we're all guilty of it. Like that's what Instagram is. That's the platform. But I've met 4 or 5 different other crafters in Denver since I moved here. I've only been here for like a year and a half, like almost 2 years now. And it's been awesome. Like I mean, I don't think he's on here, but Adam from Proper Penguin Goods has been like is like one of my good friends. Like we hang out, we ski together, we drink beers together, and like we hang out probably a couple times a month, just based on this community that like we've all built. So
yeah,
I think I don't know who mentioned it. I don't know if it was Melissa or it might have been you, Chuck. Like go out of your comfort zone and like. Yes, there's probably people within like a certain mile radius that you're comfortable like driving, I guess, that once you get a chance like interact with someone, obviously face to face, there's a lot of cool things that can kind of come from it. And I can personally say that, that's a great example. So I'm all about, and I don't think we have to figure this out right now, but I'm all about whether it's Florida, Georgia, wherever, I'm the first one to book a plane ticket. So, maybe that's like a conversation for down the road, but.
Well, I think since Eric's in the chat, he does have a farm now and has offered to host some folks.
Hey, there you go.
A Cape Cod in the summer meetup could be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean,
it's
if there's
fine.
I say if there's anyone who's going to put it together, if there's any group of people that I feel good putting this together, I'd take us 4 against a lot of other people. So if he's going to put up the spot, great. I have no problem, pitching it to a couple different people, and if we all pitch it to 2 or 3 different people, I think it could be a pretty cool thing. Yeah. Now, when we go there, I don't want to talk about leather. I don't want to do leather. I want to hang out and just and enjoy myself. So,
Eric,
Eric's checking out. All right.
Early fall. We need
to get Mike Calavera here for hyping it up. He needs to be our spokesperson.
Hype man.
I'm actually going to go get to see him in June. So I'm going to be in Charleston.
Have you met him?
I've not physically met him.
You are in for a treat. My man is just wild. He's so cool. He is the coolest dude. I met him through woodworking actually. Okay. And we met at a woodworking conference, and we were in like a hotel lobby. There's hundreds of us. He's taking his shirt off. He's throwing Calavera t-shirts off the balcony. He's throwing hard, heavy objects off the balcony. I mean, he needs to be the hype man for sure.
I mean,
does he do?
You can definitely see it in his videos. But yeah, I was super excited. I reached out to him the other day because we've got a lacrosse tournament in Charleston, and I was like, hey, can I, we're going to be in Charleston for a couple days. You think I could swing by? And he's like, hell yeah, swing by. He's like, we may get the boat and go out.
There you go.
I'm like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Let's do it.
What's the week?
Yeah. So, Eric's saying he'll do all the fine art, architecture, and sculpture. We can talk about all that crap. Not crap, all that stuff. It's actually been, I don't know if you guys have been following along, but as Eric has been moving into his new house and kind of, working on some art projects, that's really cool too. So that's been really neat to watch. But yeah, I mean, I think if we put our heads around it, we could probably find some place to meet up and, hey, here's where we're going to be. I mean, we could take the ferry to Melissa's Island. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out to Vancouver. I'm trying to get there.
Oh, I'm trying to get there as well. I'm a little closer.
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty much the literal furthest place besides Alaska I can get to over here on this side, but okay. I'm trying.
Right. If you get there, you just swing up through Atlanta and I'll piggyback on you.
Well, I'm going to go through Atlanta. I'm sure that's probably happening. So
you have to. I
mean,
it's almost like from anywhere south, you got to go through Atlanta, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can figure something out. or we'll call it the hootenanny. So I would just suggest we don't pick somewhere like St. Louis or Kansas City because it's central. We can do better than that.
Yeah, we could definitely.
No offense to anybody who's from Kansas City or St. Louis that's in the chat.
But definitely offense to anybody who's a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
There you go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It'd be funny. Yeah, we can make all that stuff happen. Just, I mean, as again, it's always just time, attention, and money. So Eric's saying that was honest though. You got to pull inspo out of other things and bring them to leather to make it interesting work. Yeah, I mean, to make it. Yeah, I would completely agree.
I mean, here's a theoretical question for, I guess, just the four of us, based off of that comment from Eric. Is I would venture, if I was looking through the people that I follow on this app, more than 50% are things that have nothing to do with leather. Can anyone else agree to that or disagree to that, or is it mostly people that you follow, or I guess are leather workers or other makers, hobbyists, so on and so forth? Because like when I went, I'm only going to follow leather people at the beginning, and have kind of like transitioned into following like all sorts of accounts from like different skill sets, different cultures. Like I'm big into sneaker culture, so like a lot of the inspiration that I find myself going into is like weird rabbit holes of like sneaker designs that I want to ultimately turn into wallets. So like that's just an example. But any insight on that?
Go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Bryan.
Oh, okay, great. I was hoping everybody would say me.
Brian's got an
Take it away.
He's got an out because he's got two parts of his business.
So the woodwork is like it's like the job, So following woodworking accounts is like kind of like networking work, it's just a different vibe. And I'm not trying to downplay the interest that is woodworking. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to see and follow, but I find myself more inspired by like any sort of natural material, anything that's like crafted, sculpted. I'm not really, there's no limit, like I could follow somebody who's making jewelry. I don't wear any jewelry. I have no interest in buying jewelry. But I respect what they're doing. I see one piece with some cool stone or something and it's like follow. I got a serial problem with following as well. I don't even know anything you see a post and you're just like follow. And I'm like, what just happened? And then you try to unfollow and it's impossible. You can't unfollow because then Instagram's like, no. That's too many people. You can't unfollow them, and you're like, okay, well, here we are.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about a jewelry maker. Anyways, go Chuck.
No. I was just going to say. I mean, like Melissa and I chat back and forth, and 90% of it is cars.
Oh yeah.
So it's follow a lot of cars, and there's a lot of stuff there. One of the keychains that I make was based off my buddy Ron's Tahoe. I mean. It's just you can find it. Everybody finds inspiration in all kinds of different places. I'm kind of the same deal where I've got the jewelry side of what I do and the leather side of what I do. So mine's a pretty solid mix of, that sprinkled all kinds of other crap in there. It's, skateboarding and BMX bikes and, all kinds of junk like that, which makes it interesting and compelling for me to actually come on the app. Like, I can't imagine getting on here and just scrolling out through wallet after wallet after wallet after wallet after wallet.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at some point, you're just
boring.
Nope, I don't want to be here anymore. Right.
No.
And
you go back to MySpace.
Right, exactly. But 5 years ago, when you're just getting started, that's what you want to see.
Right.
So, but now I don't want to see another freaking card holder or whatever. Like there's all kinds of other interesting stuff. Chuck objectively has the best taste in cars. That's what Eric said. Eric has pretty solid taste in 90s shitboxes himself. But I mean, Yeah, I mean, it's like everything else, right? So when you've got diversity in your feed, there's no limit to where you can get inspiration from. Because I think, Brian, to your point, it's like, cool, you find somebody that, did their one thing and you click like, you don't want to unfollow that because it's like, what if they're going to do something, something next that's really good?
Yeah. Sure.
Like Melissa, your buddy, Quaylar Jewelry.
Oh,
like
God.
that.
He's amazing.
Makes ridiculously beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's the whole, no in a million years am I going to unfollow that, because you're almost waiting for like, what's next? What's next? What kind of beautiful thing is going to be produced out of that guy? But it's, I guess the explore feature of this app is probably a pretty decent way to do it too. Like, just scroll through that, and if there's something that you like.
Maybe what we should do, random thought, maybe what we should do after this is each one of us takes a screenshot of their explore page and see how weird it can get.
That'll get weird.
So, yeah.
Mine is well, actually ask Melissa what might be a bunch of stuff on my explore page.
Oh yeah. Lizards.
Lizards, snakes, frogs. Me and Mel pretty much talk about that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just exclusively.
I mean, mine's like dogs, tattoos, probably a little bit of lacrosse, and your random, handmade bag. That's what I would guess mine is. But I think that'd be a cool exercise, maybe to start up the next conversation. Is, I don't know if you can screen share on here, but what does your explore page look like?
I don't know if you can. So Eric's asking the real question, do you specifically look for 2-dimensional inspiration or 3D as well? For me, it's more 3D. Like, it's flat stuff. I mean, I don't know. I kind of have this penchant for, flat, saturated graphics kind of thing. Especially like those old vintage kind of, graphics that are very flat, saturated 2D sort of stuff. That's cool. But there's more inspiration for me in looking at, a car and the curves and the fenders and how everything flows together than there is in, something that's flat. That's just for me personally.
Yeah, I think I more so, I think I enjoy drawing and, even if it's just logo creation for the business. So I do tend to, I'm sure, Melissa probably agrees. I do tend to follow a lot of 2D inspiration just because I really enjoy that aspect of the business, even though it's not necessarily a financial aspect for me personally. Obviously, Melissa's able to turn it into, actual works of art in leather. But yeah, I'm a kind of a mixed bag there. I'm looking for an account. That's why I'm over here. I'm on my other computer trying to find a specific account.
The fact that you're using Instagram on a computer makes you
okay. Well, okay. It's an iPad. It's an iPad, which is still lame, but it's not as lame.
They don't even have Instagram. Doesn't even work on iPads. I tried it out for the first time the other day at the airport. It's super weird. It's like
not helping me find the account. That's for sure.
For me,
difficult.
For me, it's kind of a hybrid. I think I find a lot of inspiration, like I said, in kind of seeing more to 3-dimensional kind of things, because I like seeing, to your point, Chuck, I like seeing things flow together, and I like seeing I guess the full body of work, I guess. But I also, part of my brain goes to the 2D, and I feel like my brain connects a little bit better with 2D, looking at measurements, looking at certain things. It just sort of kind of resonates, I guess. So I guess I'm a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to that. But
oh God, there's an account. I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. I think it's a guy named Yuki Kawe that he does Zen garden kind of sand stuff, but it's ridiculous. So best as I can tell, he custom fabricates rakes, and he does all this sweeping motions and connects it all through, so then it becomes this big flowing geographical or geometrical design when he's done. It's amazing.
Yeah, you better.
I'll find
send that over.
I'll post at my stories or whatever else, and that may be another good exercise too. The for all four of us, hey, in the next couple days, post inspirational stuff you find inspiration from in your stories,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That could be interesting.
That's a good one. Yeah.
cool.
There's a
Actually,
guy. There's a guy, Michael Alm. That's not the account I was looking for, unfortunately, but he's also awesome. He's like an artist, a painter, but he's also a woodworker, and he creates essentially. Do you know him, Melissa? Do you follow him? Michael Alm.
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
And he has his main account is called Alm Fab, and that's his woodworking page, which is more of a fabrication page. But his art page is Michael Alm, and essentially he does these. I mean, it's crazy. The stuff is crazy. He does these really, really wild sculptures that basically come from his artwork. It's pretty impressive. I'm looking for a sculptor. There's a guy who sculpts out of marble. I'm really into like marble sculpting. He does like really highly realistic like tennis shoes, pillows, just like really. You probably follow him. I'm sure I've blasted him. Tyler, you probably follow him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I follow him, but I'm going to send you my buddy's page who literally he makes the shameless plug here, kind of like you did earlier, Bryan. But my buddy Bryan, who I went to college with, he does the and you'll understand this, Bryan, because you're a football fan. But he does like the so when you get the Madden 99 club, like once you get the 99 rating in Madden, they give like each one of these guys like a gold chain and a bunch of wild things or whatever. But they also give them like a marble like kind of trophy kind of thing or whatever. And he actually does those for those guys where he like meets up with
Cool.
Travis Kelce, whoever's in that club. I'm just using him because I'm assuming he's the best. But yeah, like he can do that kind of stuff, and he's done like Travis Scott, like shoe marble collaborations,
awesome.
Wild stuff. I draw a lot of inspiration from him. I actually have something from him too. He made me a lightning bolt.
Oh, nice.
Actually,
yeah. I've seen it, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome stuff.
Yeah, I'm super into that. I don't know where I'm headed, I think, as an artist, but it's going to include a lot of really weird, unique things, and I hope marble's one of them, marble sculpting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of shameless plug, Tyler, you're not getting out of here without talking about the marathon and your fundraising goals.
All right, I'll talk about it for like 20 seconds because I just am not that person, but if you guys follow me, I haven't done a good job of promoting it on my own page, but I'm running the Boston Marathon next month. On top of leather working has kind of taken a backseat in the last like 2 years because I've kind of focused a lot more of my time and energy on just being outside and running, I guess, since I've moved to Denver, which is natural. That's what this city's about. So I'm running the Boston Marathon next month, raising money for the Boston Public Library Foundation, which basically, they do a ton of amazing things, but for the community of Boston, they do a lot of things with not only the library but also finding people jobs and after school programming and a ton of really cool things for the civilians and citizens of Boston. So I'm raising money on their behalf. I haven't really plugged my donation page, but I will. Maybe I'll post that at some point. But any help, any sort of support is great. I think I'm about 80% of the way to my goal, I want to say at this point. So at this point, the fundraising is just the more stressful part, I guess, as opposed to the actual training and the running, which is crazy to think about. This will be my 4th marathon, I want to say. Be prepared for very drunk college kids. The last 5 miles, 100%. I've actually gone. I've gone and watched. I'll get sentimental here for a second, but I've gone and watched 2 different times. Once in 2017, and then once back actually the year after the bombings took place, which was probably the coolest sporting event I've ever been to. So 2013. The bombings took place in 2013. I went back in 2014. I watched. I went to the Red Sox game on Sunday. The race is always on Monday. It was awesome. The whole tribute and everything like that. And this is actually the 10-year anniversary. I know I messed up those dates, but it's the 10-year anniversary of the bombings. They happened in 2013. So it'll be. It's going to be really cool. This is like one of those like bucket list items that I've always wanted to do, never thought I was actually going to ever do. And now that I'm actually running marathons, you know, I'm saddled up and ready to go. So, again, any support, any, you know, $5 donation, $10 donation, whatever, you know, I know we talked a little bit earlier about all the great things that we've personally done for, you know, other people around the country, Ugly Wall Party. You know, we've done a lot of cool, you know, fundraisers, I guess, just the four of us, you know, to raise money. So, you know, giving back is something that I'm, you know, a big supporter of. Like, if there's anything on Instagram that I can, you know, raffle a wallet off or whatever, I'm always happy to do it. So, you know, returning the favor, if you will, you know, would go a long way and would mean a lot. So, thanks, Chuck, for putting me on the spot. That was way longer than 20 seconds.
All right, check my page, whoever watches this video. I'm going to do a Shell Cordovan wallet, and I will do like some sort of either raffle or, you know, highest bid, and we'll donate to that cost.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know, since I have this pattern that I'm still waiting on a zipper for, and I have no home for it, I'll do the same thing. So I will finish off Melissa's pattern and my version of her pattern, and we'll do the same thing. I'll auction it off, and it'll benefit the Boston Public Library.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'll put something up.
I mean, it truly means a lot, guys. I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, I've probably, during the month of December, like leading up to Christmas, which is obviously, you know, a busy time for people buying stuff, like every dollar that I personally made, I donated, you know, January 1st or whatever myself. So, you know, I'm trying to do my part as well, you know, using the platform that we all have, which is incredible. You know, and I'm lucky that I have, you know, the ability to make things and do that. You know, not everyone has that ability. But again, any help is appreciated. And Bryan, Chuck, Melissa, I mean, it truly means
Look in the comment. Read the comment.
I'll throw some in. I was there the year of the bombing. I had a couple friends lose hearing. Yeah, I mean, that's wild, Eric. I mean, so backstory was I was actually working in Boston 2012. My company had, we had like two floating holidays or two floating like volunteer days where you could go and volunteer, and, you know, it was a paid day. And I ended up quitting my job in end of February. But I was signed up to, like, the volunteer day that I was going to use was going to be for the Boston Marathon Day. So I was signed up. I have no idea where I was going to be, you know, volunteering. I could have been at the finish line. It could have been, you know, handing water out at mile 3, who knows? But like, it's just something that I constantly go back on, and I'm like, well, I wasn't there at the time, you know, thankfully. But at the same time, like, just kind of like always been circulating my brain, about that exact thing that you're talking about. So, again, appreciate that.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll even do up a little fancy lightning bolt charm to go with the bag itself.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
That's cool.
Awesome. Well, now we got a plan. We got a plan to get you over the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, but
Don't be stingy. Whoever's bidding and buying, don't be stingy.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
It doesn't benefit any of us. So,
No.
that's awesome. Glad we could cook that up.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I know we have been on for quite a while now. I think we've gotten through all the questions. Unless anybody else has anything else they want to cover before we split for the night. Other than, I know I'm never going to run a marathon, so
Yeah, I'm with you there.
It's also one of those things too, where, and you know this, Chuck, a little bit, is like I've spent the last like 10 years like in the world of dealing with like parents, and that's the reason why HFA started. Was it was my chance to like sit down and make something and kind of like decompress from like the nonsense of what I was dealing with in my like real life job. And running has like kind of slowly kind of taken that spot, I guess, a little bit. You know, that's like my time to escape for 30 minutes, hour, whatever it is, and just you know, let the mind wander and, do its own thing for a little bit and just stay sane before I go completely crazy. So, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. But like I said, I mean, the running aspect for me right now is it's in a really good spot, and I've become pretty good at it, I guess, for whatever that means. But
it means that you're quantifiably at least 8 times better than I am at it.
You drink a lot more water than I do.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm good for something. Cool.
All right. Well, Dark Heart Leather said, thanks for doing this again. Always a pleasure to tune in.
Hey, thanks.
So we will.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Like at some point, I don't even believe that people want to show up and pay attention, but that's pretty cool too. Because I think the 4 of us would do this whether anybody's watching or not. So there's that.
That's the reality.
To the point, we actually sort of have a plan to do that specific thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, this is awesome. I enjoyed it a whole lot, like every week. Thanks everybody for joining. And again, Bryan, thanks for joining us. It's
Bryan.
Always awesome. You're always welcome anytime.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I haven't been on live with those guys in a while.
Yeah.
So
I will definitely do that.
Not to make.
Well, I won't wake up in the middle of the night, but I'll consider coming back.
Oh, sure you will. You'll sit both
I'll
upright.
consider it. I'll think.
We're worried about
all I heard was there's some baby oil and selling of goods on offer.
Hey,
so
I'll come back on if you can get Mike on.
We can probably make that happen.
And do it while you're there.
That would be. It'll be the end of June, but I bet we could do one of these with him from Charleston.
It's funny when Mike was doing aprons or whatnot. He wasn't doing small goods at the time, and he reached out to me knowing I did leather and whatnot. I actually did his small leather goods for about a year, so I have a pretty good relationship with him. So he's a cool guy. Definitely would love to have him on here.
Nice,
Sweet.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome.
We'll make it happen.
Cool, guys.
All right, guys.
All right.
Good night,
Thanks,
friends.
everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. Thanks, everyone.